lean on us.
We are here for you.
You matter.
You are not alone.
Are you feeling overwhelmed? Not sure where to turn? The National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there for you 24/7. Call or text 988 or chat at 988sc.org. Whether you're having an emergency or you know someone who needs support now, they can help you take the next step towards finding hope and healing.
There is hope. 988sc.org.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
We all go through different chapters in our lives, some stranger than others. Welcome to Strange Chapters, where we bring you true stories of the strange, the macabre, the paranormal, and the supernatural. So sit back, relax, and let's get to this week's featured author and their stories. Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in to this edition of Strange Chapters. I'm your host, Eric Freeman Sims, and today we're bringing you part 3 of Dark Tales of Cryptids and Truck Drivers from the book of the same title by Mr. Michael Kelso. You can find Michael's books on Amazon, Kindle, and wherever fine books are sold. So go check out his books and grab you a copy. Also, the show is doing really well on YouTube, so please continue to subscribe and share it out. We have like 3,400 views now, which is awesome. So thank y'all so much for checking it out and subscribing. If you're ready, we'll get on with the show. So enjoy part 3 of this 3-part series. Sit back, relax, and let's get strange. This story is titled, I Used to Drive a Delivery Truck. You Won't Believe the Story I Have to Tell. This was a while back, but it still haunts me, the things that happened while I did that job. It's only now, years later, that I can look back on it with anything other than fear. I decided to tell a story of what happened because it's so odd, so bizarre, I doubt anyone will believe it anyway, and will just write it off as fiction. I'm fine with that. I just need to get it down so I can keep it straight in my head, and maybe people who know me will understand a little better the way I've acted over the last 10 years. It started when the company I drove for decided to put cameras in the trucks to monitor the drivers. There was a small device mounted under the rearview mirror with a camera pointed out at the road and one pointed in at the driver. This made me mad enough to almost quit, but jobs at that point in that area were so hard to come by. So I kept working there. The rest of the drivers weren't happy either, but were told to shut up and deal with it. The cameras were monitored by someone at the main warehouse. I found out the hard way, which led me to quit. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay away from the job. It was full-time and paid halfway decent wages and benefits, which was better than the fast food jobs I worked, which was the only other job I was able to get. After months of struggling to get by, I sucked up my pride and went crawling back to the driving job. Fortunately for me, they had several drivers quit, mostly because of the camera issue, but I was rehired from my old route. Although I was glad to get my better job back, it also terrified me because of what happened, but we'll get to that. I started doing my runs, and it was just like riding a bike. I didn't miss a beat. In fact, some of my customers asked me if I'd been on vacation. The only thing I refused to do was drive past the corner of Hamilton and Wright. I knew it was on my route, but I would go out of my way to avoid that corner. Things were going well. I was able to catch up on some past due bills and even set some money back for a rainy day. The job was easy enough except for traffic and bad weather, plus the occasional muscle strain from carrying a hood or a door and twisting the wrong way to try to get it in the shop door. But other than that, things were going well. I was driving my route one day, jamming out to my favorite music, when I forgot to take my detour around the corner of Hamilton and Wright. It didn't even dawn on me until I got the phone call. Hello, I said. Glad to see you back. Who is this? It's Carl from the warehouse. My blood froze. No, don't even tell me. Yep, he said. You have a passenger. I turned slowly and looked over at the empty seat beside me. Oh God, I don't want to do this again, I said, my hands shaking. I slowed and pulled to the side, then checked traffic and got out of the truck, taking my phone with me. What do? I said in a panic. I don't know, he said. I can't even imagine being in your situation. My situation, I said, pacing back and forth beside the truck. There's a freaking ghost or demon or something in that truck that I can't even see that tried to kill me or rip out my soul last time. I literally jumped into traffic to get away from it. I know, he said. I watched the whole thing on camera. Believe me, it still haunts me. Not as much as me. Yeah, I can't imagine being in your shoes. Well, my shoes ain't getting back in that damn truck. What do you mean? You heard me. I ain't getting back in that truck as long as that thing is in there. But your deliveries. Screw my deliveries. You can get someone else out here to finish my run. He was silent for a moment. You're serious? As a heart attack? Well, I've got good news for you, Carl said. Your passenger's gone. Really? Yep, while we were talking, I glanced over at the screen, and he's gone. I went around to the passenger side and looked in. I wasn't sure what I expected to see since I could never see it anyway. I went to the driver's side and got in, eyeing the passenger seat suspiciously, like it was about to attack me at any moment. You're sure he's gone? I said, the phone still in my ear. Yes, Carl said. There's no one in your truck but you. I wonder where he went, I said, putting the truck in gear and starting toward my next stop. Who cares as long as he's gone? I thought about it for a moment, wondering if I did care or if it was just morbid curiosity. I didn't find out until later that Carl had lied to me. I merged into traffic and proceeded to the rest of my route, but something didn't feel right. The truck was cold even though I didn't have the air conditioner on, and I had this feeling of dread that I couldn't shake. I had 5 more stops on my route. Every time I got out of the truck to make a delivery, my mood instantly lightened. When I got back in the cab, the dread returned. It wasn't a full fight or flight feeling, more like there was somewhere I needed to go, but I had no idea where. Regardless of what Carl said, I didn't put my hand over in the passenger space. I learned that lesson the last time. Whatever it was that was riding with me had blissfully ignored me until I put my hand in the passenger space and waved it around. That's when Carl told me it looked at me for the first time, then grew claws and ungodly teeth, turning into something out of a horror movie and lunging at me. Only falling out of the truck and into traffic saved me from its clutches. I shook away the mental image as I pulled into the garage that was our home base and parked the truck. I took one last look in the passenger seat as I gathered my lunchbox and coffee mug, then went in to clock out for the day. Well, how'd your first run go? The boss said. Not bad, I lied. Just a couple hiccups, nothing I couldn't handle. Great, he said. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. I went home, grabbed some supper, and tried to get some sleep. 5 o'clock came early, and I wanted to make sure I was at work on time. The truck was barreling down the road at 60 miles an hour. The man Carl had shown me in the video was driving while I sat in the passenger seat. We pulled up to the corner of Hamilton and Wright and stopped. I got out of the truck and started walking toward the graveyard. It was nighttime and there was a heavy mist in the air that made everything seem surreal. The glow from the streetlight bathed the mist in putrid yellow. Every step I took seemed like my feet were encased in lead as I trudged toward the graveyard. It wasn't much. It seemed like someone had just put down some graves because they had nowhere else to go. There were maybe 30 graves, most of them were in some state of disrepair. I trudged past them one by one, like I was being guided to a certain place. At the end of the row, I turned right and came face to face with a newer but very small gravestone. I leaned down and looked at the stone, but the name was blurry and I couldn't make it out. I stood and turned and the driver stood there. He looked at me with a sadness in his eyes and pointed at the gravestone I'd just looked at. I looked again and my name stared up at me. My birth date was correct, but the date of death was blank. What does that mean? I said. He shook his head and walked away. I followed him back to the truck and got in the passenger side. He climbed into the driver's seat and drove down the road. We came to a traffic jam and he parked the truck and got out. I followed as we walked up to the scene of an accident. An ambulance was already there and they were working on someone. Blood lay in puddles where the car was upside down next to a truck. I stepped up to the gurney and held the bleeding person. The EMT didn't seem to realize I was there as he stepped past me, allowing me to see the mangled face of an accident victim. It was my mangled face. I sat bolt upright in the bed, breathing hard. The sheets were soaked in what I hoped was sweat. It was only 2:34 a.m., but I knew there would be no more sleep tonight. I got up and went to my lazy boy chair to watch YouTube videos the rest of the morning. Happy ones like World's Best Roller Coasters. I didn't think about watching any creepypastas. In the morning, I had a big cup of coffee and loaded the thermos with even more, knowing it was going to be a long day. I had my short route, but it went past Hamilton and Wright. I started sweating as I approached the intersection. I pulled over just before the stop sign. I stared at the small cemetery for a long time, then put the truck in park, turned it off, and got out. I approached the gravestones in the exact same way I had in my dream. It was broad daylight with only a few clouds in the sky, yet somehow it seemed darker as I walked down the rows of stones that announced people's deaths. I came to the end of the row and turned just as I had in my dream. For a moment I closed my eyes, afraid of what I would find. It was a struggle, but eventually opened my eyes and looked at the gravestones. My name wasn't engraved on it. However, the name of a man buried there was Dean Lewis. His date of death was only a year ago. His date of birth would put him in his mid-50s. I closed my eyes and remember the image Carl had shown me, the man, before he turned into a demon. He looked like he was in his mid-50s. I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture of the gravestone. Then I turned back toward the truck, half expecting to see him standing there like in my dream. Thankfully, he wasn't. As interesting as this was, I was still dealing with forces I knew nothing about and had no desire to know. I walked back to the truck, questions dancing like sugar plums through my head. I stepped up into the cab and stared at the passenger seat. It seemed like that was all I did anymore, was look at the passenger seat. Out of curiosity, I decided to do a little investigating of my own. I set my phone on the dashboard and turned on the camera facing me so I could see the entire cab of the truck. Sure enough, as soon as I did, there he sat in the passenger seat, as pretty as you please. He was staring straight ahead as though we were moving, and he was enjoying the scenery. I recorded a few minutes of video with me sitting next to him. I made sure I kept my hand out of his space. I picked up the phone and called Carl. "Hello," he said. "Hey, Carl, how's it going?" I said, waving to the camera. Pretty good," he said. "What can I do for you?" "I was just wondering, since I'm sitting here at the corner of Hamilton and Wright, is my passenger with me?" Nope, don't see him." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, I'm sure. Why?" "Because you're a liar," I said, turning my phone around and showing him the video through the truck camera. "You see the time and date at the bottom? That was the day just a few minutes ago." "Yeah, I see." He sounded defeated. "You lied to me the other day too, didn't you?" "I had to," he said. "You won't get back in the truck any other way. Here's the deal, Carl. Don't lie to me anymore." "Okay, I won't." "So aside from calling you out for being a liar, I have some other news about our friend here, if you would like to hear it." "Sure." I told Carl about the dream and my visit to the cemetery. I also texted him a picture of the gravestone. "What do you think it means?" he said. "I don't know, but I'll be driving extra careful the rest of my route today." "You think it was telling the future?" "Actually, I don't," I said. "The gravestone had my name on it, and the victim had my face in the dream, but it was reversed in real life. I'm thinking he was trying to show me something." "What?" "I'm not sure," I said. "You think you could do some digging with the name and dates?" "I'm not supposed to lie to the drivers," I said. I could hear him sigh through the phone. "You're never going to let that go, are you?" "Nope, not when I can hold over your head." "All right, I'll see what I can find," he said. I hung up and continued my run, all the while keeping an eye on my passenger through the phone. He didn't seem to change his expression much. I delivered the rest of my parts without incident. As I was on my way back to the garage, I had to take a detour around an accident. I froze up, noticing it was the same car and truck from my dream. I glanced at my phone and my passenger was gone. I stopped and got out of the truck, making my way to the front of the crowd so I could get a better look. When the EMT moved aside, I saw a man that wasn't me and wasn't my passenger. I waited until no one was looking and snapped a picture of my phone of the victim. The rest of my trip was uneventful, with the exception of my brain spinning like a hamster on crack trying to figure out what was happening. The next day, as soon as I started my run, I called Carl. "Did you find anything?" I said. "He had an address on the other side of town, but the building's been torn down. It's a dead end." "Very funny," he said sarcastically. He also had a daughter, but she moved after his death and hadn't been able to find out where. "You think he might be trying to find her?" "It's possible," Carl said. "He used to run a garage out of the same building he lived in. Did we ever deliver to that garage?" "We did for a while, but then he quit paying for his parts, so we cut him off." "So he's using us to find his daughter?" "Looks like it." I thought for a moment. "We should help him," I said. "What?" "We should help him find his daughter." "Why?" "Well, maybe we can help this poor soul find some peace," I said. "Okay, what's the real reason?" "It's not getting the hell out of my truck, of course." "That's more like it. See if you can find out anything more about how he died and where his daughter might be." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to drive a truck with a ghost in it," I said. "You want to trade?" "Nope," he said. "I'm good." I did my route without any problems. After I was done, I drove to where my passenger's garage used to be. I got out of the truck and looked around. It was nothing but an empty lot. There was nothing to show a building was ever there. "What you looking for?" A voice from behind me, causing me to jump. I turned to find a man dressed in shabby clothes. In fact, it looked like parts of many shabby outfits. He had 2 different shoes on, jeans with holes in them, a t-shirt over a dress shirt, and a corduroy jacket with holes worn through the elbow patches. "I used to deliver parts here," I said. "Oh yeah? I remember when there was a garage here," the man said. "Back when I still had a job and a life." "You remember the man who used to run the garage?" "Sure do. I believe I got some work done here once." "Remember if he had a daughter?" "Coming to think of it, he did have a daughter, but she went her way after he passed." "You know where she went?" "I'm not sure," he said, holding out his hand. I reached in my wallet and pulled out a $10 bill, then handed it over. He looked at it like it was a rotten piece of meat. "That's all I've got," I lied. He shrugged and shoved it in his pocket. "She moved across town to some hotel. What was it called?" he said, scratching his head. The Paradise Hotel. That's it. Thank you, I said. I hopped in my truck and called Carl. I found her, I said. Found who? The daughter. She's at the Paradise Hotel. So of course you're going there right now? Of course. Carl sighed. And mentioning anything about being in a company vehicle will fall on deaf ears. Of course. All right, you should probably have her picture then, Carl said. I'll text it to you. I received the text and began my stakeout by calling my boss and telling him I had a flat tire and would be getting back late. Then I parked outside the Paradise Hotel and waited. I wasn't set up for a stakeout. I had drunk all my coffee for the day and eaten my lunch. In fact, since I was thinking about it, I actually had to pee. I hoped it wouldn't be too long until she showed up. I sat there for an hour and passed the time by scoping out every place I could see that might have a public restroom. Finally, a woman that looked like the one in the picture showed up. I jumped out of the truck. Excuse me, miss, I said quickly, walking towards her. Her hand shot into her purse, making me stop and hold my hands out in front of me, hoping she was searching for mace instead of a gun. I mean you no harm, I said. I wanted to tell you something about your father. My father, she said, pulling her hand out of her purse. What about my father? I've seen him, I said. You're wrong, she said. He's dead. I know. She took a step away from me. You know he's dead, but you've seen him. Yes, ma'am. I reached into my pocket and she went for her purse. Wait, I said, it's only my phone number. I slowly pulled my phone out of my pocket and showed her the video of her father riding in the truck beside me. Is that him? I said. She put her hand to her mouth. When did you take this? She said. Just a few days ago. Her eyes grew wide. That can't be, she said. Oh, believe me, I had a hard time believing as well. Believing what? I clicked my phone into camera mode and aimed it at her. Just like I thought, her father was standing behind her. I turned the phone around and put it on selfie mode. I handed her the phone and she saw her father behind her. She whipped around, saw nothing but air. She looked at the phone while waving her arm where her father was on the phone. She saw her arm pass right through him. Oh my God, she said. Yeah, I know, it's a little jarring the first time. Oh my God, she screamed, then ran to the hotel. She struggled to open the door as she had never done it before. Her eyes were wide in panic as she clawed at the door, eventually managing to open it and disappear inside. I watched, mystified by her actions. Yes, it's something to get used to, but as much as he wanted to find her, I thought it would be a heartfelt, albeit strange, reunion. I shrugged and got back in my truck, then drove to the garage as fast as possible. I ran into the bathroom, relieved myself, and clocked out and called Carl. He was just as mystified at her reaction as I was. We agreed it was something of a shock to realize ghosts are real, and even more of a shock to deal with one on such an up-close and personal basis. The next day was Saturday, my day off. I drove to the Paradise Hotel and tried to find Miss Lewis. I approached the counter and asked for her. And how do you know her? The attendant said. We just met, I said. I'm, an acquaintance of her father's. Really, he said. Well, she had a bit of a problem last night and ended up going away. Did she move again? In a way, he said. She went off her rocker and they took her to the nut house for observation. What made her go, you know? Around the bend, he said. No one seems to know. She was babbling something about her father when they took her. I thanked him and drove straight to the mental hospital. I said I was a friend of the family and was allowed a 10-minute visit. What are you doing here? She said when they brought her into the visitation room. I came to see how you're doing. How I'm doing, she said incredulously. How do you think I'm doing? You show up and tell me you have my dead father with you, then all of a sudden I'm freaking out. I can't even figure out what's happening. The only thing that makes sense is you bringing the ghost of my father to me has made everything in my life go nuts. I thought you'd be happy to see him again, I said. He seemed to want to get to you so badly. I'm sure he did, she said. Do you know why? No. She looked over at the orderly who was across the room but keeping an eye on her. Then she leaned in close to my ear and whispered, Because I killed my father. I drew back, my jaw on the floor. Why? I said. You have no idea what I had to go through living with him. Did he hurt you? Did he do things to you? She shook her head. He wouldn't dare, she said with a malevolent look in her eyes. Then what? He took my phone. I'm sorry, I didn't think I heard you right. He took my phone, she said. He kept me from hanging out with my friends. He wouldn't let me go out late at night or go drinking. He wouldn't let me do drugs. He said it was for my own good, but I knew better. The whole time she'd been talking, a subtle change came over her. She turned from frail and helpless to cruel and heartless. It was frightening to watch. I slid my chair back a little. He couldn't deal with the fact that his little girl wasn't so little anymore. So I tried to run away, but he just found me and brought me back. Finally, I'd had enough. I got one of my friends to fake a robbery. He broke into our house and shot my father. I was free, finally able to live my life until you showed up. Yeah, I think I'm going to go now, I said, standing. She lunged across the table and grabbed me by the throat. I'm going to kill you for bringing this curse on me, she said. The orderly started across the room towards us, but before he got there, she screamed in pain and let me go. I could see her being dragged away from me, but there was no one doing it. The orderly stopped mid-stride and watched as she slid across the room like she was being dragged, then flopped on the floor beside the door. I stood frozen for a moment, then came to my senses and left before she could get a hold of me again. I drove home and spent a sleepless weekend thinking about what had happened. Monday morning came way too fast. I did my run, setting up my phone at the corner of Hamilton and Wright. Much to my surprise and relief, no one appeared in my passenger seat. I called Carl and told him what had happened. We both agreed we'd never tell a living soul, at least not without changing our names when we told the story. All right, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed part 3 of Dark Tales of Cryptids and Truck Drivers by author Michael Kelso. Go grab you a copy of Dark Tales of Cryptids and Truck Drivers on Amazon Kindle and wherever fine books are sold, and check out Michael Kelso's other books on there while you're at it. That's it for this week. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there and stay strange.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.